I am hoping to start the meeting soon. Does anybody know if anybody's on their way here who might be caught up in the accident? Not caught up in it, but behind it. Okay, so there's 3 who are going to be late, so we will have some coming late. Okay, all right. Yeah, I can imagine it probably is quite hairy, actually. So I think what we'll do is we'll start, probably on the understanding that some people will arrive late. Okay. So how are we doing with the feed, Andrew? Okay, fantastic, thank you. So welcome everybody to this last full council of the year. I know it seems like only yesterday we were starting the year. I am your chair, Councillor Eleanor Rylance, and I'd like to welcome everybody to this chamber, including all councillors, members of staff, and also the people watching online. People will be arriving as they manage to negotiate the accident, so please bear with us as people sit down. Right, health and safety notes. If a fire alarm sounds, none is planned, so please leave the building through the nearest fire exit by following the green running man sign above the doors and make your way to the rear of the car park. The organiser of the meeting will tell you when it is safe to return. With the exception of the confidential item that we'll deal with at the end of the meeting can be viewed live online at the Council's YouTube page and will be recorded for future viewing. The agenda and papers have been published on the Council's website in advance of the meeting and also circulated to members. Could I please request that members and officers, when they are talking about an item on the agenda, that they refer to the page so that others can find the right page within the agenda pack. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to highlight meeting good practice. Please only speak at the chair's invitation, and that's me. Switch the microphone on your desk. Can you please make sure that you're logged into your microphone under your own name? Somebody will tap a card on the side. I think Andrew will go around tap a card on the side of it if you haven't been logged in yet. Can you make yourself known to Andrew, please, if you haven't been logged in yet? Please speak directly into the microphone and turn off the microphone after you've spoken. Thank you. Please turn all your mobile telephone devices to silent so we're not disturbed in the meeting. And we will now start by doing a roll call when Andrew is back near the top. Andrew, how are you doing? Okay, so in a moment, I think I may have gone slightly too fast for the process. In a moment, Andrew's going to do a roll call of all the members here present. If anybody's got any people they know who are not attending, please can you give their apologies when their name's called. Thank you. Andrew, how are you doing? Are you ready?
Yes, thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
over to Andrew.
Good evening, councillors. Okay, so Councillor Arnott.
Present.
Councillor Aurora Bailey.
Present, thank you.
And Councillor Brian Bailey.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Ian Barlow.
Present.
Councillor Blakey.
Present.
Councillor Bloxham.
Present.
Councillor Colin Brown.
Present.
Councillor Bruce.
Present.
Councillor Burrup.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Present.
Councillor Chubb.
Present.
Councillor Bethany Collins.
Present.
Councillor Roy Collins.
Present.
Can I just ask you?
Sorry. Councillor Davey.
Present.
Councillor Dumper.
Present.
Thank you.
Just firing up.
Councillor Fernley.
Present.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present.
Councillor Goodman.
Present.
Councillor Hawkins.
Present.
Councillor Hayward.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Heath.
Present.
Councillor Hookway.
Present.
Councillor Hughes.
Present.
Councillor Ingham.
Present.
Councillor Jackson.
Present.
Councillor Jeffries.
I got a late apologies from Councillor Jeffries, is unwell.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Present.
Councillor Kemp. Councillor Ledger,
Present.
Councillor Levine,
Present.
Councillor Loudon,
Present. Thank you.
Councillor McKinder,
Present.
Councillor Martin,
Present.
Councillor McCullum,
Present.
Councillor O'Leary, Councillor Riddell,
Present.
Councillor Rickson,
Present.
Councillor Rylance,
Present.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Toy,
Present.
Councillor Westerman,
Present.
Councillor Whibley,
Present.
Councillor Wilson, and Councillor Ragg. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
And Councillor
now-
Faithful. Present.
Apologies, Councillor Faithful. Councillor Faithful.
Present.
Is there anybody else whose name was not called who is in fact present? Okay, thank you. Right, I realise that in my script I kind of glossed over the declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations of interest on anything on the agenda? Please, Councillor Aurora Bailey and Councillor Brian Bailey. First, in that order.
Thank you, Chair. Item 12, NRI, tenant for over 35 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. And Councillor Brian Bailey, is your declaration the same?
It is the same, Chair.
Okay, what a surprise. Councillor Riddell, please.
For the item 13, it would be an effects NRI. I've got friends that own farms.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toy?
Yeah, I work for DEFRA, so council, motion on item 13 as on inheritance tax mentions farmers, so I probably should abstain on that issue.
Okay, I don't know, Tracy, Mel, what do you think? What was that? Good grief. Do we have a gremlin?
Chair, I would declare an ORI effects in those circumstances, but you can still take part.
Did you hear that, Councillor Toy? Declare an affects ORI, but still take part. Okay?
But would I be allowed to vote on it?
Absolutely, Councillor.
Yes, yes, you would. I can see some fingers. I can't see who's there. Councillor Bethany Collins, please.
Thank you. Yeah, and for item 13, an affects NRI as I have family with farms.
Okay, Councillor Bruce, please.
Thank you, Chair. Affect NRI. Friends, neighbours.
Oh, is this about item 13? Okay, yeah, fine, thank you. Are there any more declarations of interest coming forwards? Right, okay, so if you realise at some point in the meeting that you should have made a declaration of interest. Sarah, are you? Yes, please. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Chair. I should probably do the same for item 13 then, as I have quite a few friends who are farmers and I do agricultural stuff myself, so.
Okay, thank you. I think a few of us will be uninvolved completely in farming. Yeah, I think, given the area, I think we mostly have links with the farm, with farming. So if you realise at any point in the meeting that you should have made a declaration of interest, please don't be shy about coming forwards. It's better to do it than not. Thank you. Right, now, moving on to item 1, which is apologies for absence. Andrew, do you have a list? We've got quite a long list because there's quite a lot of illness about at the moment.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So I have apologies from Councillor Jess Bailey, Councillors Bonetta, Chapman, Jenny Brown, Haggerty, Anne Hall, Matt Hall, Marcus Hartnell, Councillor Howe, Councillor Jeffries, Councillor Johns, Councillor Nicholas, Councillor Todd Olive, Councillor Helen Parr, and Councillor Sophie Richards. Thank you, Chair.
Did I hear Councillor Bonetta in that list?
Councillor
Okay.
Bonetta as well, yes.
Yes, thank you. Right, I am just trying to, yes, sorry. Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you. I understand that Councillor Smith sent apologies earlier today, but obviously not filtered
Okay.
through.
So that's apologies from Councillor Smith as well.
Did you get Councillor Jeffrey?
Yes,
Yeah.
Councillor Jeffreys
Yeah.
was in the list. Yes, unfortunately, there's an awful lot of illness about at the moment, particularly for people who have small children. Right, so I'm trying to find my agenda again, never mind. Right, okay, thank you very much. So along with the people who may or may not turn up late, who may be stuck in traffic. Right, minutes of the previous meeting, we've done declarations of interest already. We are onto the minutes of the full council meeting of the 16th of October 2024. And just as soon as I find my documents again. There has been a change in the agenda order, something I'll explain in a minute, which is why I'm slightly looking for the updated version at the moment. Right, okay, where are we? There is now a new item 12, which is going to be the minutes of strategic planning from Friday, which I'll explain about in a minute. Because they made it through the door just in the nick of time in front of the next, where are we? Sorry about this. Bear with. Right. Minutes of the previous meeting, which should be unaffected in terms of page number, which is pages 7 to 26 in your agenda pack. Does anybody have any comments or amendments to bring to those minutes? Councillor Arnott, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and in particular, thank you to Councillor Faithful. Under the answers to questions from members last time, the last line there reads from me, finally, none of the election literature published in my name commended a target number. So this was in relation to housing target numbers. So none of the literature in my name did, and I was so confused about this because Councillor Faithful was happily persistent that I Googled my name, Paul Arnott, and 380,000 earlier, and it turns out there were Facebook posts from the National Party which were in my name saying that I supported 380,000 houses per year. So it is incorrect. Thank you, Councillor Loudon. It is therefore incorrect for that last line. Finally, none of the election literature published in my name commended a target number, because although it wasn't literature, which leaflets, it was social media.
Do you wish to retract that last sentence then, Councillor Arnott?
Well, absolutely. I'd like and I understand for the monitoring officer that this should be noted. I don't think you can change the.
No, because you actually said it in that meeting. But
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, and with apologies and thanks to Councillor Faithful. Thank you.
So do we add that as a note then?
It will be clarified in these minutes, just
Okay.
to say that the leader confirmed that wasn't correct.
Okay, thank you very much for doing that, Councillor Arnott. Are there any more amendments, modifications, strikings off? Nope. Is everybody happy to vote on these minutes then? Right. If you're in favour of these minutes, would you please raise your hand now? Thank you. If you're against them, raise your hand now. Do you want to abstain? Okay. That's one abstention, but everybody else largely in favour. Thank you very much. Right. Public speaking. I understand there is nobody registered to speak in public. Thank you. Matters of urgency. There are no matters of urgency for tonight. There is one additional recommendation included in your, which I just mentioned, which is has come from the minutes from strategic planning from last Friday. So luckily they needed to come to full council and they were able to be produced in time for this full council. So they are in your agenda pack. So just like the new orange is orange, the new number 12 is the new number 12, but it is a different item. So everything beyond item 12 is now +1 in the new agenda pack, which I haven't actually got in front of me, I must say, but hopefully we'll stay on track. I couldn't open it, Andrew. Same old problem. Right. Announcements. Well, my major announcement is it's Advent. And because it's Advent, I have mulled wine, mulled juice, and mulled cider downstairs waiting for us. And I hope we can get to them before they go cold. And we also have mince pies, and it will be lovely to see as many of you as would like to attend down there after this meeting. So without further ado, let's crack on with the meeting. Leader, do you have any announcements?
I'm glad to say I don't.
That is a great relief, Leader. Thank you. Right, confidential and exempt items. There is one confidential and exempt item, which will be, is it item 18 or is it item 19 now? It is still item 18. It is item 18. Right, fantastic. And that will be into part B. So we will move the meeting into part B and then consider that item. Right, we have, I think, in front of us 6 questions, which have been answered by the relevant people. Now, each one of those questions is entitled to a follow-up question. So, in order, I'm going to ask Councillor Faithfull, do you have a follow-up question to your question?
Thank you, Chair. Following Councillor Arnott's comments earlier this evening, will he take full responsibility for all the literature that was given in his name?
I'm going to pass this over to Councillor Arnott in a moment, but I'm still mystified about why this is still coming to full council, because it's not full council business.
It's relevant because we are struggling with strategic planning just to do 300, and to have a leader of the council and the leader of strategic planning, who was his agent, promoting 380,000 houses.
It's nationally, Councillor Faithfull.
Well, they're still supporting it, and this is what we're dealing with. Anyway, there you go.
Okay, Councillor Arnott. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, I think strategic planning is the place to debate this. For the record, I do not agree with that 380,000 number, but you'll find for all people who are members of national parties, which is most of us here, you don't all agree with everything the National Party says. And I think I've given lots of evidence, including to Peter Faithfull, I'd forgotten it, I even wrote a letter to the Times last year that was the lead letter, saying that I thought these housing need number targets under the last government and under this one were red herrings and very unhelpful indeed. So just to reassure Council and Councillor Faithfull, I do not support that number of 380,000. It was on a social media post of which I did not control, and unfortunately that's what happens in the post-Trump era of elections.
I'm just trying to work out an unfamiliar device. Okay. Right, okay. Thank you very much. Right, everybody has their devices laid out differently. Right, thank you so much. Right, the next 5 questions are from Councillor Goodman. Now, Councillor Goodman, do you have follow-ups to all 5 of them or just to some of them? You have a follow?
Yeah, so question 2, no. And question 3, I'd like to apologise to Councillor Jackson. I missed the forward plan where it's on. And thank you very much for getting it on there, and I look forward to that going forward. Question 4, can I thank Councillor Ledger for his reply? But I'm sure he's aware that many public people are concerned about the surveys because it's been in the press before it was announced. And I understand that the data needs to be validated. But can I ask him 2 questions? Can I ask him, does he anticipate any significant changes to the report that we had in November? And there is a Housing Review Board meet on the 30th of January. Do you think the revised checked stock survey will go to that meeting? Thank you.
Apologies, Councillor, I didn't catch the second question there.
Do you see the stock survey being ready to go to the Housing Review Board meeting on the 30th of January?
No. At this present time, I can't commit to anything. It all depends on doing that internal quality assurance on the data that we have. So until that process is completed and that can be brought before council and made public, I can't make any commitments. It will be as soon as possible, but it needs to be on the understanding that all of this data needs to now go through a strict process. We quality assure it, and then we can produce it out and pass it to the general public.
First part of the question was, from what you've done so far on the scrutiny of it, do you foresee any significant changes from what we were given?
Could I just remind Councillor Goodman there's meant to be one follow-up question, please?
I haven't seen any reports yet on the follow-up, so I can't comment. As soon as I do, I'll be happy to share that with members.
If there are any further follow-up questions to that question, please, Councillor Goodman, put them into writing. Thank you.
So question 5, no follow-up, and thank you very much for the answer. Question 6, can I thank you, Councillor Ledger, for the answer to this important question of waiting lists for potential tenants. The figures do show an increase in the waiting list over the last 5 years, in particular over the last 2, 2023, 2024. Now, understanding the challenges the service are facing, what plans are going to be in place to address this going forward for the new year?
Councillor Ledger, is that something you can answer, or?
Yes, but just to clarify, so the actual housing need is reduced. So the housing waiting list may have increased, but that includes, well, it includes the Band E on the Devon Homes Choice, which is no identified needs. So it's people that are just asking to go on there, but they've been assessed as having no housing need. One of the things that we are looking at as a service is whether we can bring back a report so that we remove that out of our housing figures, so that we've got robust data that actually shows the housing need of the district, and that we can put that out so that we are prioritising work and necessary resources into the areas that matter most. Thank
you, Councillor Ledger. Right, okay. That was mercifully short and sweet. Thank you very much. Right, so now we're moving on to this. I'm still becoming familiar, I'm afraid, with the format we do this in. So, first of all, we're going to take en bloc all the reports from Cabinet and Council's committees, and then in the next item we do all the recommendations that have been pulled out. So, item 9 at present is all the minutes from, I can read out all the committees if you like. We've got Cabinet and committee minutes from the 4th of December. We've got the minutes of Cabinet on the 30th of October, of scrutiny on the 7th of November, of Housing Review Board on the 7th November, overview on the 24th of October, Planning Committee on the 22nd of October, Planning Committee on the 19th of November, Strategic Planning Committees on 29th of October, 1st of November, 5th of November, South and East Devon Habitats Regulation on the 24th of October, and Arts and Culture Forum on the 6th of November, and Leisure Strategy Delivery Forum on the 11th of November. So right now we're being asked to vote on all of these minutes en bloc before considering the recommendations. So if you are in favour of accepting all these minutes, would you please raise your hand now? And if you are against accepting all these minutes, would you please raise your hand now? And if you are wishing to abstain, please raise your hand now, and that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, called minutes. There are no called minutes, I'm pleased to report, so thank you. And I confirm that all those minutes are duly noted, and we move on to item 10, which is recommendations from Cabinet, the Council Financial Plan for the years 2025 to 2035. Which in your document pack is on pages 93 to 120, and I'm going to invite the Leader of the Council to present any recommendations. With any questions of a technical nature, I imagine will probably not go to the Leader, they will go to Simon Davey. So Leader, would you please present your recommendations?
Why you wouldn't want my analysis of the next 10 years of financial matters, I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Chair. I'd like to present to Council a report to Cabinet from the 30th of October 2024, which was the financial plan for 2025 to 2035. It is essential that the Council considers its financial resources in advance to allow time to make necessary amendments in its service provision and to ensure balanced budgets are maintained. Therefore, the recommendation from Cabinet was, open quotes, that Council adopt the financial plan 2025 to 2035 and its direction outlined in balancing future budgets, close quotes. Thank you, Chair.
Are you proposing these minutes, leader? Or did we ask somebody else to propose
I
them?
present them, don't I?
You're
I think that's
presenting them,
what we do.
okay. Is anybody willing to You can propose them if you like.
I would like to propose these.
So
these
confident is the
recommendations.
leader in these recommendations that he is willing to propose them. Is anybody willing to second these recommendations? Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Hawkins, you're seconding, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Would anybody like to ask any questions of the leader and or Simon Davey? If they're technical, I'll go to Simon. About these recommendations? No? Does anybody want to talk about them at all? Okay, this is great. Can we smell that mulled wine? I think I can. Right. So, if you are in favour of accepting these recommendations, would you please raise your hand now then? And if you're against them, would you please raise your hand now? And if you'd like to abstain, raise your hand now. So, largely carried with one abstention. Thank you very much, everybody. So, that was carried, wasn't it? Okay. Fantastic. Okay, moving on to item 11, recommendation from Licensing and Enforcement Committee, statement of gambling policy on the agenda. Now, Joe, Councillor Wibley is the chair of Licensing and Enforcement. Do you wish to present your recommendation? Is he here somewhere? He's here.
Hi there. No, it's so basically it is a review of the gambling policy. There's going to be further changes in the new year. So this is basically exactly the same as the one we've had. So there's nothing really to talk about, or to that's changed.
Okay. So, Mel, have you got anything to add to this?
No, Councillor Wibley is absolutely correct. We're required to review the policy every 3 years, but we're waiting for some further guidance from the Gambling Commission, so it will be reviewed fully in the new year. But this is basically a tidying up exercise. So, as you will have seen from the draft, very, very minor amendments have been made to it. So nothing further to add, really. Thank you, Chair.
But there will be more amendments coming next
Yes.
quite soon.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So your recommendation is that the draft statement of licensing policy 2025 to 2028 is adopted, obviously with the proviso that it will be coming back to us when we have more information. So if you are, would you like to ask any questions first of all, or can we move to a vote? No, I think there's no hands. Okay, yes, we do need a proposer. Who would like to propose it? So, Councillor Jackson, you'd like to propose? Who would like to second? Oh, who had their hand up? Councillor Wibley. Oh, Councillor Wibley, did you wish to propose them?
I'm happy to second them. Doesn't
Okay,
matter.
okay. So Councillor Wibley is
I'm not fussed.
seconding his own his own recommendation. Brilliant. So, with that in mind, if you are in favour of this recommendation, would you please raise your hand now? If you are against the recommendation, please raise your hand now. And if you wish to abstain, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, wonderful. Okay, next up we have recommendation from this. Now, this is the new item. This is the new item. And we may need to spend a bit of time on this because it only made the agenda today. And so it's unlikely that many of us will have read it. So I think we will need to spend a little bit of time on this, going through what it is. So, and our recommendation, oh, hang on, what's that? That is not right. Okay, at this point, I'm going to suddenly call on Andy Wood to say something about this recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. This item concerns the local development scheme, which is the key document setting out the programme for the production of planning policy documents. It was last updated in 2023, and that the update to the local development scheme was considered at Strategic Planning Committee last Friday. A particularly important part of the context here relates to the proposed changes to the National Planning Policy Framework, for which the government started consultation at the end of July. We are expecting an updated version of that framework by or later this month, and that potentially could have a significant bearing on the strategic housing requirement. Therefore, there is a timing imperative to bring the review of the local plan through. And indeed, a version of the full plan is on the agenda for the next Strategic Planning Committee a week today. Oh, and I will read out the recommendation as well. But it's just giving some context. And so that will be now a two-part Regulation 19 consultation. The first round, and this is set out at the top of page 191 of the agenda, is projected to start January 2025, that being within 4 weeks of the expected publication of the updated National Planning Policy Framework, with a second round projected to start in spring 2025, and that's specifically concerning proposals for the second new community. So that is a significant element of progressing the local plan through to submission in autumn 2025 and subsequent inspectors' hearings during the latter stages of 2025 and early 2026. So in terms of the recommendation itself, just finding that.
The recommendation itself is in the full document. The recommendation on the top paper is not accurate at the moment. I can read it out from the chair if you like.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so the recommendations are that Strategic Planning Committee, number 1, recommend to Council the proposed new local development scheme as appended to this report at Appendix 1, there's a typo in there, should be endorsed and take effect immediately following approval. Number 2, endorse the proposal for 2 rounds of Regulation 19 consultation as set out and proposed in this committee report. And number 3, endorse the proposed communication strategy appended to this report at Appendix 2. There's another typo. So these are the recommendations that should be on the top paper, but they are not. So they are in the paper below. Councillor Ledger, do you have a contribution to make?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Okay. So do people feel the need to see these in writing? If you do, you need to go down to the main paper. They're in there. Does anybody... Oh, hang on. Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's really unfortunate that we haven't seen sight of these papers. Well, I haven't, for one, anyway. So I find it very difficult to make a vote tonight on it. But that's just my personal understanding. Did I hear correctly that you were talking also about the time when the draft plan will be going out for consultation? Because I do have a question, if I can, on that. Is that
Yeah, please. Yeah. I mean, questions.
I did attend yesterday a meeting of local parish councils and town clerks, and there is a lot of concern regarding the actual date of when it's going to go out for consultation, and they all raised their concerns that don't really need to know what is going on. So is it possible that a letter could be sent to parish councils advising on what the nature of the consultation and the dates will be, please?
I do believe that is regularly done, but I'm perfectly happy to ask. I'll ask Andrew Wood about that. Andy, please do tell us what happens.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, yeah, I'm acutely aware that town and parish councils need to understand what's coming. That is, I suppose, a core purpose of the local development scheme in itself, to set out that timetable. And subject to consideration by Strategic Planning Committee next week, I think we can provide an early communication of when that consultation is likely to start.
Councillor Barlow, please. You're next, and then Councillor Ingham.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder if Andy could confirm that although this is being split to Section 19's consultations, that the government will be happy with the way we are working this, so that we do not have to have the larger housing number, which I think is what we're trying to do.
Who wants to answer that? Andy? Andy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So in response to that, so there has been an advisory visit with the Planning Inspectorate. The intent to effectively have a 2-stage Regulation 19 kind of publication consultation was discussed at that point and is compliant as I understand it.
I hope that's reassuring, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Ingham, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. I think it might be useful for parish councils and town councils to have some form of very basic Gantt chart saying this might be the timeline, and if it changes because of policy changes by national government, and then we can revamp it. I think what they find difficult is the last minute changes, and please come to this or decide by then, and not having an overall vision of what we're wanting them to achieve.
I do believe there is one available, isn't there? There's a timeline available that maybe could be shared with parishes. Yeah, with the proviso that obviously it can alter. Councillor Arnott, because I was going to go to Councillor Faithful next, but do you want to come in now? No, not at all. Okay, Councillor Faithful, you're next, and then Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to ask this on the 11th, but I think for me, what's the situation if the inspector doesn't agree with our proposed draft local plan? Where do we stand?
Andy, where do we stand if the inspector does not like our local plan?
So I think there's two aspects to that question, Chair. So one is procedurally, are we compliant? And certainly from the advisory visit, we think this is a perfectly legitimate way to proceed. Obviously, there'll be a range of different opinions, representations raised to the Regulation 19 plan that will then need to be considered through the examination by the inspector, and he or she will then suggest modifications if he or she considers they are required. That is ultimately the purpose of the examination. Obviously, we intend to submit a plan that is true, if you like, to the the national planning policy context, takes account of East Devon's local constraints as well, and navigates a path through that in a way that we feel that the plan will be sound ultimately.
Thank you, Andy. Right, Councillor Arnott, you're up next.
Yes, thanks. And picking up on Councillor Barlow's point, and I'd just like to ask Andy, in the context that I know that a lot of parish councils are being, I think, perhaps provoked by some local members. I'd just like Andy to clarify the reason. I understand it. I think it's what Ian was saying as well, that we are doing this as fast as possible is because we had one set of housing numbers under the previous government. Suddenly the new government come up with an even more, and unless we do this at pace, there would have been the risk that we would have ended up with the higher prescribed number of 1,200 and something rather than the 900 and something. I just want to check that's correct.
Andy?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So that is correct. So we are operating on the basis that by progressing at pace, we will not have to effectively reset the plan and progress with the higher number of 1,150, that being 200 above our current annualised requirement.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, Chair, and I suppose it would be good if all councillors could disseminate that to their parish councils. We're getting increasingly concerned letters from a number of parish councils, and it seems to be a function that some members are not perhaps explaining that to the members of the parish and town councils.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people are alarmed by this, but it would be possibly worse if we had to go in with 1,200 a year rather than 900. Oh, Councillor Barlow, sorry, your hand was
Just on
hidden
that
behind
point,
Councillor Riddell.
that doesn't sound a huge amount of difference, but that's every year. So you've got to understand that that goes on for 20 years. You're talking about 2,000 something houses you'd have to find. So it is a huge number, and it's really important that we get this done. And I know people are feeling pressurised, but there is a reason for that, it is beneficial.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hayward, please.
Entirely agree with what Councillor Barlow said, but the figure's 4,000, not 2,000. If it's 20 years at 200 per year, that's 4,000.
The figure is 2,250, I was always told, but I understand it is for 40 years, but I think they're only looking at 20 years.
But even more, even more. Even more houses. Councillor Brian Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I'm sure you'll stop me if it's not.
You can bet your bottom dollar on it.
I'm sure, exactly. We have a lot of concern in Exmouth about what appears to be the lack of protection of ancient woodland and the pebble-bed heaths, because on some parts of the new plan, the pebble-bed heaths are being encroached upon at a distance which appears to be less than the statutory 15 metres. So I'm wondering if Andrew could put our minds at rest to say that we could strengthen the position regarding ancient woodland, pebble-bed heaths, etc., and areas like standing natural beauty, which appear to be developed on in the forthcoming future within this local plan.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
if you have awareness of any incidences of that happening, then you would pass them on to Andy, who is the head director of planning, and I think he would very much welcome to know about these things if it is happening. So it's worth passing those concerns on to the head of planning specifically. If you think that building is happening too close, or that ancient trees are being chopped down, unwarrantedly or unplanned, then Andy needs to know about it. Do you want to answer anything that Councillor Bailey said, Andy?
Thank you, Chair. So I would just emphasise that we have a legal duty to protect the integrity of our key habitat sites, and that is absolutely core to the progression of the local plan. I do know, though, in relation to aspects such as the national landscape, there's been some deeply uncomfortable conversations and choices for members, because even at the lower number, the availability of sites is difficult. And I've heard numerous discussions at Strategic Planning Committee about having to make the kind of least worst choice ultimately.
Thank you, Andy. Councillor Young next, please.
Thank you. Now, I've already taken this up with officers, and we've been double checking that all the protections have been looked at, and now everything is in order with that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Are there any more questions, comments? Okay. Do I have anybody from the floor maybe willing to propose this recommendation? Oh, Councillor Ledger, thank you. And seconding, Councillor Levine, I think, had his hand up first. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. Are we ready to move on to voting? I think we possibly are. Oh, you want to vote on them one at a time, or not en bloc? Okay. Do you intend to vote different ways on each one? Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look. Where are we? Let's have a look at these. Well, I don't see. I mean, with the typos corrected, please, Andrew, as well. So it says at rather than as.
Chair, just reviewing the recommendation again, it's actually only the first one, I believe, that is a recommendation to council. The other two, numbers 2 and 3,
really.
were decisions made by strategic planning.
So that we're being asked to endorse numbers 2 and 3 rather than vote on a recommendation. So with that in mind, we can just take them en bloc, really, can't we? Yes.
You're just voting on one. So
Yeah.
you vote on one
Okay.
and then put yours in.
So we are actually going to vote on one, and we're going to note the other two. So the first one, which is recommend to council that the proposed new local development scheme as appended to this report at Appendix 1 should be endorsed and take effect immediately following approval. That is the one you're being asked to vote on. And if you are in favour of that, could you please raise your hand now? Thank you. If you are against it, would you please raise your hand now? I think we might. And if you would like to abstain on it, would you please raise your hand now? I think that's carried. Yeah. Obviously, curate's egg, but carried, definitely. Right. Okay, thank you very much for your forbearance with that. And well done to whoever produced the minutes so quickly, because it's crucial that we keep moving at some pace with this. Right, so everything beyond that is now a different agenda number. So the thing we have next is the first motion, which is now it's now item 13 rather than 12, and it's the motion on the inheritance tax. And we have a proposer who is Councillor Brown, Colin Brown, and a seconder who is Councillor Bruce. And I'm going to ask Councillor Brown to present his motion, please. Oh, Councillor Loudon, you have something you want to jump in first? Okay, is that okay, Councillor Brown?
Yeah.
Okay, so over to Councillor Loudon then.
Thank you, Chair. I've spoken to the proposer and the seconder about an amendment to the motion, and my belief is that they have accepted what I'm proposing. So, if with your will, what I'm proposing, and officers have it. I don't know whether it will come up on screen or not, but let me read it. It's fairly straightforward. It says, in light of the confusing government department figures related to the number of farms affected by the recent budget changes, and given that farmers' inheritance tax is not an issue that all members will have sufficient detailed knowledge about, and in order to give maximum consideration of what positive broad support this council might provide to the district's farmers, Council agrees to refer this motion to Scrutiny Committee, requesting that it considers the motion, its recommendations and their implications, and to report back to Council on the outcome of its deliberations.
Thank you for that, Councillor Loudon. I think hopefully we can get the text up on screen so that you can read it as well. It does seem like we need more information specifically in our district, which is a very rural district. Oh, Councillor Ragg, would you like to say something? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'd be happy to second Councillor Loudon's motion. It is the right place. We couldn't give this a fair hearing tonight. It would take far too long. All its intricacies and complexities. I really do believe this is one for scrutiny. Scrutiny has the power to set up a task group. It can call witnesses in, expert witnesses from outside, from the farming community, among others, of course, and a thorough piece of work, comprehensive piece of work could be done. And I think it's what the farmers certainly deserve, and the families of the farmers deserve. And it's what the public deserves. It's a hugely contentious issue, and so scrutiny is the place where it can be properly examined, investigated. Thank you, Chair.
It does seem we can do a better job of if we spread it over many sessions rather than just the one. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. I sit on scrutiny. We don't have, we have things we look at, and at the end of the day, time is always precious, and we don't have enough officer resources. Is there any real point in this council spending an awful lot of time doing this? I know it's important to farmers, but this is a national issue, that we will tie up our resources that should be really used for looking at things that are a problem with this council. And look, I'm not political at all. I don't care. I've got, and I will declare an interest. I know many farmers, and this is very important to them. But I just wonder, we've been told in scrutiny that we have to do things that make a difference to our residents. Is what we're about to do actually going to make any difference to them? Because when we come to a decision, are we going to have any weight in the debate in Parliament? There is my question to you. We've just had training. Are we wasting our time, or should we be concentrating on the many things in this council that need looking at, like planning enforcement that I've tried to get onto the agenda?
Thank you for that, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Dumper next, and then Councillor Roy Collins. And then, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wondered whether, in light of what's been said by Councillor John Ladoon and by Ian Barlow, whether in fact the Local Government Association will be doing anything on this nationally. Because I definitely think that farming communities are nationwide, and there will be so much concern everywhere about this. And I look at scrutiny, and as Councillor Ian Barlow says, you know, it will take time, and it may be duplicated many times over. So better for it to go centrally where tax experts can be called on. That's all I have to say, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dumper. Next up, we had Councillor Roy Collins.
Thank you, Chair. Please don't duck this issue. It's very, very important. The farmers pay millions to this council in rates, and you should be supporting them. Lloyd George, in his 1909 budget, he brought in land reforms and he brought in taxes on the wealthy landowners. There were very few small farms that owned farms back then. They were all large estates. These estates all got broken up when they had to pay their taxes. Many estates, they started being broken up in the 1920s. Many of the tenant farmers bought the farms. My grandfather, or great-grandfather, rented the Hale Farm in 1849. My grandfather bought the farm in 1923, and he used my father's savings and my uncle's savings to help purchase the farm. He had to borrow money. It took some years to pay it off. When he died in 1956, it was left to my father and my uncle, and they had to sign papers to avoid capital gains tax, holdover. When my father came to retire in 1985, he was 76, totally weared out, and we took 9 months to get the farm transferred over to me. Some of it he gifted to me. I bought the farmhouse for him. But he died in 18 months. So I was landed with a big bill for gift tax. Although we didn't have the inheritance tax thing, we had the gift tax to pay. It cost me £30,000 just to take over 80 acres.
It sounds to me,
Just
Councillor
over
Collins,
80
as though you
acres.
have a
And
wealth of knowledge
now
about this.
My son starts
And-
5 o'clock in the
yes.
morning.
And also,
And he doesn't finish till 9 at night. And he
Councillor
works
Collins,
7 days a week.
Councillor Collins,
No, I own
just-
my farm.
if I may
own
interject just for a second, Councillor Collins, I do not remember you making a declaration of interest at the start of the meeting.
I'll make one now.
Okay, so you're making a declaration of interest on item 13. Yes, it is 13, isn't it?
Well,
So
my
confused.
son works from 9 till 5.
Which is? What is the
Sorry,
declaration?
from 5 till 9.
Also, Councillor
every day.
Collins, all of this information is going to be very interesting, but possibly in a different venue.
No, it's on the motion. You should be talking. I'm against the amendment.
There have
I
been
should be
taxes in the
voting against
past.
the amendment.
They were hard work, I understand.
But
So
what you don't realise is that farmers. Now, I got my farm accounts
Councillor
here.
Collins, if I may,
My
if I'm-
accounts, I made £8,000
Councillor
profit
Collins, please
last
don't make me
year.
use this. Please don't
8,000.
make me use this.
Let me finish, please.
Yes,
I
where
made
is it heading?
£8,000
Where is it going?
profit.
Can I just
That-
remind you, please, that the motion we're looking at now is the replacement text.
Well, I'm against that, and I'm speaking against it, please.
Okay, well, we haven't quite got to that bit yet,
Well, that's
but
what
thank
I've
you.
come in
So
for.
I'm getting the impression that you're against it. Thank you.
I made £8,000 profit last year.
Yeah.
£16,000 of that came from the government. We
Okay.
had a grant, and that came from the government.
Councillor
So
Collins.
my farm, we had 25 pence a litre for the milk June of last
It's a
year.
very, I think what Councillor
My
Collins
farm is subsidising the public for their food. All farmers do
Councillor
this.
Councillor Collins, I think none of us in this chamber are unsympathetic to what's happening with farming. None of us. And I think we know that there are problems within the food industry. And please don't think this comes from a place of me not being sympathetic to farmers who are barely making a living. But we don't really need to know what happened with Lloyd George right now. So if we could maybe...
do, because
if you-
that's what brought it in.
If you could...
That's what ruined the country. All these big estates. All the aristocracy went with Lloyd George.
Councillor Collins.
I mean, he was a Liberal, I'm a Liberal.
Yes, I understand this. We all understand this. Please, can you keep your remarks pertinent to what's in front of us? And if I ask you to be quiet, or if I start speaking, you have to stop speaking yourself, please.
Well, let me speak.
That's not an answer to what I just said, but right. Have you finished?
No.
Right. Well,
There
think...
is,
could you please make it relevant, Councillor Collins?
well, you say, there's a 4-month waiting list to see a solicitor about this.
Okay. That's important to know.
Several farmers have already committed suicide
That's
because
also
of this.
very important.
We need to show the farmers in East Devon that we support them, not shove it under the carpet. We need to discuss it tonight, like Colin Brown proposed.
I think it needs more time than we have available, even in one meeting, is the thing. Councillor Ingham, you'd like to come in, please. Oh. Councillor Collins, would you please turn off your microphone? Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. I tend to agree with Councillor Collins. I think we need an amendment because, with the best of intent, can I suggest that just read the last paragraph on page 3.
The original text or the new text? The proposed new text?
Page 3, isn't it? The council urges all councillors to stand by farmers, okay? So that's saying, what are we going to do? Either we're going to have a debate or are we just going to write a letter? I suggest we do not have a debate, but we go straight to a vote on that last paragraph. You either agree with it or you don't. You either send a letter or you don't send a letter, and we save time. Let's get on with it.
So
So
are you
that's my
are you
amendment.
making a proposal, Councillor Ingham, to retain the last paragraph and replace the rest of it with Councillor Loudon's text?
I'm proposing that we go to a vote now, all right, so that based on that last paragraph, and we take a decision. We don't have a debate, just get on with it. You either agree with that statement or you don't.
But that leaves Councillor Loudon's amendment, which is already proposed and seconded.
Yeah.
Still
do it.
So I need to take the First Amendment first, don't I? So we do have an amendment which is fully proposed and seconded that we need to vote on first.
Yeah, fine.
Are you making a second?
Yes. So
I'm
what
trying to
saying
work
is
out how this can go
you
constitutionally at the
can
moment.
still take it to scrutiny and debate it if you like, but we send this letter because that's the important thing. That's what it's saying. Don't have a debate about it. You either agree with sending a letter or you don't. Get on with it. Easy. We've all got an opinion on it. I don't think there will be any abstentions. You're a yes or a no, and we can do it quickly.
He needs a seconder. Yeah, can I just be clear, members? So as I understand it, the amendment was accepted by the proposer and seconder of the motion. So that has become the substantive motion.
Yeah,
Can I just clarify that? Okay, so effectively what is on the screen is the motion that we would be voting on unless anybody else is proposing an amendment to it.
I've proposed the
So
amendment.
are you proposing that we pull the last paragraph from the original motion and pop it on the end?
What I'm saying is that that's your proposal, isn't it? My amendment is just to send a letter. If you can go and have a debate at scrutiny if you like, but let's just send this letter. Let's have a vote whether we send that letter or not, because we all understand it. We don't need to debate it. Get on with it. Easy. I want a vote.
Happy to second that, Chair. Chair, I think the idea is to come back to the proposer and seconders of the original motion for a moment.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Councillor Brown and Councillor Bruce, you'd already accepted the proposed amendment. So constitutionally, that's the amendment. That is the motion we're looking at. Councillor Ingham has now come forward with another amendment
Well, if you put this
about the letter of
motion,
So
the
Councillor
last paragraph.
Councillor Brown, you want to retain the last paragraph now as well?
Yes, please.
So you're willing to second Councillor Ingham's proposal? So we're both, so the two proposals that we're now coming forwards with, they're referring it, it's Councillor Loudon's text, which is to refer it to scrutiny, but also to send a letter to
Yes,
DEFRA.
that last paragraph.
But I mean, I think part of the point of sending it to scrutiny was that we didn't feel that we had enough information.
Amendment. Now you want me to include it, and then you tell me you don't want to include it. Make your mind up.
No. Amendments have to be taken in the order in which they're submitted, and the first amendment was that.
That's no longer an amendment, because that's the substantive motion now, isn't it? It's included.
That's a fair point.
As I understand it, the substantive motion is the wording by Councillor Loudon, which has been agreed by the proposer and seconder.
Okay.
So the second paragraph is an amendment, which is the adding of words, which is acceptable. So we would now need to vote as to whether to make that the substantive motion.
Do we not vote on the amendment first?
Yeah, as to whether to make the amendment the substantive, so we'd have to...
No, because the new text is already a substantive motion, isn't it? Now we're voting on the amendment, which Councillor...
Yes, so we're deciding whether the amendment becomes a substantive motion or not.
Right, okay. We're there. Okay, so this paragraph has just been pulled out of the original motion before it was superseded by Councillor Loudon's text as agreed by Councillor Brown and Councillor Bruce. And so the first, do we have a debate on the amendment? Actually, we do need to debate the amendment, don't we? Yes, we do. No, well, I think there are people who want to say something, actually, Councillor Ingham, so I'm going to ask for comments on the amendment. Who would like to comment on the amendment, the proposed amendment? Councillor Young, you first.
This is a government policy, and they are working on it at the moment. I'm concerned about the officer's time if we have to go to scrutiny on this, and our time as well. Today, I don't know what the outcome was. It was debated in Cornwall last week. It's going to be debated at Devon County Council tomorrow. It's been debated in about 300 other district councils. So aren't we creating a load of wheels rather than creating just one wheel? I totally support the sentiment that this council stands with Britain's family farmers to support our rural communities. Our countryside, our food supply would be a mess without them. Clearly there is an existing tax loophole that was specifically designed to help family farmers that is now being used by wealthy individuals who have never put their wellies on at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the lambing shed. This has led to higher land prices and pricing out many aspiring farmers from actually owning their farms. So yes, I agree that this issue should be revisited, but it should not be referred to as a family farm tax. That's very, very poor description. It is in fact the agricultural property relief and the business property relief. So if we are going to do that second sentence, can we get it right?
Councillor Loudon, I'd like to call you back in at this point because you had your hand up and you wanted to come back in.
Only because I wanted to speak on the amendment, Chair.
Okay.
And I think Councillor Young has a point there. It takes out an emotive phrase in there. The difficulty with putting the amendment back in is that it sort of, in many ways, negates part of what the substantive motion is seeking design to do. And part of the reason I say that is because if I look around this room, I suspect there's not many people in here who are experts on family farm inheritance tax and precisely what the details are going to be of the implications. We all read things in the papers, but I don't know, Councillor Ingham may be an expert in farming inheritance tax, and he may be able to elucidate for us. But if I just take one aspect of the issue that causes me concern, and it's the numbers affected, And we've seen in the press, haven't we? We see DEFRA says one thing, we think the Treasury says another, and then others say other things. So I quickly Googled, as everybody does, this evening. The NFU is saying 138,000 farms will be affected. The Country Land and Business Association says it's 70,000. The government says it's 500 per year. The Central Association of Agricultural Valuers say it's 2,500 a year. And the Channel 4 fact check site says it's unclear until we have more data. So this is part of the reason. If we're going to be looking at doing something, whatever, we need to be very clear what it is we're doing and why. And it's the why. You know, let me make no bones about it. I stand with the farmers and them and what they do for us as a country. And we're getting sidetracked here. We're getting sidetracked. And that's why I'm looking to maximise the consideration we give as a council, because it's about what we can do, rather than anybody can write a letter, sign a bit of paper. You know, it will end up in the Treasury, and Rachel Reeves will go, okay, next. You know, so this is about what do we do meaningfully for the farmers. We can all sit here and spout the words, but what are we going to do? And with greatest respect to Councillor Ingham, I'm not convinced that his amendment will actually benefit in any meaningful way. So I'm struggling with it.
I am going to call Councillor Fitzgerald in because I missed her earlier.
Thank you. I would like to support what Councillor Young said earlier. I don't feel that sending this to scrutiny is the right thing to do. I don't think that our officers and councillors are the right people to be investigating the details and the numbers, as Councillor Loudon has rightly pointed out, needs to be done. I think that even if only 500 farms are affected by this tax, it is still a huge effect. I grew up in Cambridgeshire, surrounded by huge farms, which are farmed by corporates. There were very few hedgerows, very few footpaths, and no tourists at all. East Devon is a completely different place. There are lots of small farms which nevertheless will be valued at around about 2.5 million or more because of the high value of land. And now they are being subject to, they will be subject to massive inheritance tax bills, which many will be unable to pay. I don't think it's the right thing to do to sit on this. I think it's the right thing to do to take a stand as a council to reflect our district and what it needs. And I would propose that we go with the original text, i.e. now the amendment, and we do not waste time with going to scrutiny. Thank you.
So just to be clear, Councillor Fitzgerald, there will be a vote on the amendment to the replacement text first. So the original text that was in the agenda papers is no longer in existence, so to speak. It's been replaced. It's been replaced by the text that the proposer and seconder accepted. But we will consider the amendment to that text first, and then we will consider the whole motion as a whole as it emerges from that process.
Right, in that
right.
case, can I please second Councillor Young's request to replace family farm tax with the more appropriate wording around the abolition of the agricultural property relief.
Oh, right. Okay, so that amendment to ask for a more scholarly term for that particular term rather than a less loaded one came after the first amendment. So, Councillor Ingham, are you willing to accept that amendment from the floor? Okay, so Councillor Young, would you be able to repeat what you said? With your microphone on, please. Thank you.
changing it from agricultural property relief, which is APR, and business property relief, which is BPR. Change it to that, yeah.
From family tax fund.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before the mince pies go cold. Actually, I think they might already be cold. Right, so are you happy to accept that amendment? Okay, so Councillor Owen, could you pass that change to Andrew Melhuish, please, so he can change it on the screen so that we know what we're voting for? Does he have it? Okay, it's just going up. Yes, we can crack on. Right, Councillor Faithful, just quick. Oh, Charlotte, can you switch your microphone off, please? Thank you. Councillor Faithful, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. A simple question. If we were to send this to scrutiny, how quickly can we bring it up as a scrutiny subject? Thank you.
Councillor Goodman.
Thank you for that curveball. Well, look, yes, scrutiny could look at it, but I'd take what Ian Barlow said earlier on, that we should really be looking at things that are directly affecting East Devon, and this would be a big one to take on. Yes, you could do it, but I would think this would take several months to bring back to count. This wouldn't be done overnight. This is quite a big one. It may be worth doing. I have to give some thought on how we would do it, because you'd have to call quite a few witnesses in, which might be a good thing to do. Maybe we set the scene in terms of doing that as a first council in the country to bring it to scrutiny and really do it justice.
I mean, I think it would be interesting to find
I
out
think
how
it would
it's
be very
affecting
interesting.
people in our district on the ground, concretely.
But if you're asking me how long would it take, I would say at least 3 or 4 months.
How long would it take to get it onto the agenda, I think, is what Councillor Faithful was asking.
Oh, I haven't got the forward plan on here at the moment, but our next meeting's in January, and I think we could get it on there, because what we would have to do there is scope it, and then form perhaps a TAF group separate at the same meeting, which we could do. And I think the TAF group would also be, and I'm talking off the top of my head now.
But potentially as early as January then?
Yes, we could do. And what I would suggest we also do with the TAF is to invite members who are not necessarily on scrutiny to join, because this could be quite a beast. And what I don't want to do is to stop the other good work that we want to do next year as well.
Okay, yes, noted. But in answer to your question, Councillor Faithful, potentially as early as January.
Well, be considered in January.
Yeah. Right, Councillor Barlow, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. We seem to be making heavy weather. I think it still goes back to the same thing. I think everyone here will support our local farmers. I know I certainly do. I'd be very happy to send the letter, the amendment that's on the bottom there. And as Councillor Loudon says, they may not take much notice of it. If we spend an awful lot of time in scrutiny doing all this, all the time we will waste on that. And the things, whatever we do and however we get extra people in, we will still stop doing other things. Will it make any more difference? Do you think Rachel Reeves will then think, oh my God, they've had a scrutiny meeting, we better take more notice of this? Because I just think that we are, if you don't agree on something, then surely you should just, sorry, Chair, I will just carry on for 2 seconds. I don't want
2 seconds,
to take
please.
Just want to say that if you don't agree with something, you can always not vote on it.
Very true, very true. I mean, the other thing I would say is that we are, I think, quite unusual in that we are quite rural as a district. And so we do have an expertise that other areas may not have. Yeah. Right, so the last person to speak on this, I think, is going to be Councillor Councillor Barrott, maybe. Councillor Brian Bailey, and then Councillor Arnott. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I appreciate that some members would like to put all this through scrutiny. I agree with my good friend Councillor Barlow that it's going to take a long time. It's going to tie up officers and members of scrutiny to achieve very little.
Okay.
Because we're not going to get absolute facts. We're going to get the opinion of scrutiny, which I'm sure is worth having an opinion when we're dealing with our own works.
Councillor
But
Bailey.
when we're dealing with the government, it's just on. It's a matter of principle, and the principle is that we should support the farmers.
Councillor Bailey, you will have the chance to vote on this in just a few scant minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brilliant. Councillor, do you want to, Paul?
Yes, thank you. I'll be very
Councillor
brief,
Arnott.
Chair. I think we've landed courtesy of councillors, of the original proposers, and of Councillor Ingham, Councillor
Ambrose.
Loudon in a very good place, where the amendment which Councillor Ingham has put forward does express what we all feel. I think that Councillor Young has introduced new info or corrected information to that, and it captures it. When it comes to the issue of scrutiny, there is a lot of information out there that is easily collated. I think Councillor Dumper mentioned the LGA earlier. It is not, I believe, going to take an officer a huge amount of time, perhaps a working day, to bring that together for the consideration of scrutiny. And I don't see any reason why it should dominate scrutiny's work. And I saw Councillor Ingham nodding earlier around the point that we want to get this right. There's a risk that we don't want to do gesture politics here. This issue is going to go on. We know that the tax isn't going to actually be enforced for some time. Meanwhile, we know that there are farmers desperately trying to plan what they're going to do in 2026, 2027. So I think actually if a district council does write to the Chancellor of Exchequer with substantial comment and objection, I think it will be heeded. I think a motion that just says up with the farmers, down with Labour, it won't be. So I think we've landed in a very good place, and I'm happy to be voting for what we see on the screen in its entirety.
Assuming the amendment is voted for.
Thank you.
Right, now, who do we have? We have Councillor Hayward, please, and then I have Councillor Burrup. And then Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Hayward first. Yeah, microphone, please.
If I may, I believe Councillor Burrup did have his hand up before me, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Councillor Burrup.
I'm really grateful to Councillor Hayward. Thank you so much. Firstly, I realise I need to declare an interest, as I have a personal friend who has several thousand acres of North East Yorkshire somewhere as part of a farm. So please accept my apologies for not declaring the interest earlier. I have great sympathy with the genuine farming community, and I'll just. A wise man once said, "There are lies, damn lies, and statistics." So I heard one last week, which said that 56% of land sales last year were to investment vehicles. That was investment type companies, etc. It's those, Chair, that should be actually tackled. I mean, land should not be a tax dodge. And the government has used a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and it's caught all in its power and its wake. So actually, I agree with the amendment, because it stands with Britain's family farmers, not the investors who have bought it as a way of wrapping up their investment and escaping inheritance tax. The government should continue to pursue those. In terms of the proposal to take this to scrutiny, I struggle with this, Chair, because we are tasked as a district council with acting in the interests of the residents of the district. So if the scrutiny, if the scrutiny task was to scrutinise the impact on this on East Devon's farmers, I would support it. But to scrutinise the entire policy of national government, I think would be beyond the remit of our scrutiny team. So that's what I have to say. Thank you, Chair.
I see Councillor Loudon looking at his text again, I think. There may be something coming. Right, while we're waiting for Councillor Loudon to do that, I am going to move on to Councillor Hawkins and then Councillor McKinder. Oh, you actually do want to speak? Right.
Yes, Chair, I was just
Councillor
being, I was
Hayward.
just being very polite to
You
Councillor
were
Burrup.
so polite, so polite.
It's just for point of clarity, in the amendment, if we are proceeding with this, you should remove the words Daniel Zeichner. That's not necessary. You're writing to the Minister of State, not the individual. You would also remove the words after rejecting this and replace with the, and after the word proposed, changes to, because otherwise it makes no sense. It's not grammatically correct. Sorry to be a pedant, but you need to have rejecting the proposed changes to agricultural property relief and business property relief. But on that point, I do concur entirely with Councillor Young. There is no family farm tax. It's just a made up emotive statement.
Right, I'm going to
that is the actual tax that's being referred
ask Councillor Ingham, are you happy? There was an ellipsis there. Are you happy to accept that those changes to your amendment? It's still happening. It's still happening. Watch the magic. What's the magic?
Line one's got Britain's family farmers still. So no, if you're going to change it, change it. Yeah. 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 You want all that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, am I the last one to speak?
No, you're not the last one to speak,
then,
I'm afraid. Yeah. Do you want to come back in after? Okay. Right. So, Councillor Hawkins, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think first of all, there's an interesting dichotomy between the resolution we've got in a minute that talks about our residents in council houses struggling and this item, which essentially is tax relief for millionaires. Of course, there is an underlying issue here. The amendment as put is, it's already picked up on one of the points around we did need the word changes, but now that we've included business property relief, that's significantly wider than farmers, and we've not even touched on the fact that now we're calling on changes for all people that own businesses, business shares of any type, regardless of what they are. So I don't know if that's actually the intent of members. I also wonder what the content of this letter is. Is it, Dear Minister, I reject your proposed changes to 2 types of tax relief, lots of love East Devon District Council? Or do we actually want to add some substance to that? Because in its current state, we can't. The first part of the sentence, the first part, I think everyone's fully in agreement, but without knowing what this letter is going to say, I think as members have already made the point, the relevant ministers are just going to read that and go, cool, thanks everybody. They're getting that from everybody. If we want to do something with a bit of substance, let's get it right, get the right information on there. Because there's been a lot of, I think, even misunderstanding tonight that we've heard. With the right planning, and it's not too much planning, it's more get married. You can pass on a farm with worth £3 million. I appreciate that there's a lot that goes in behind that. And it's not as simple as that. There is obviously what's happened to agricultural values, as people have already touched on through the investors, which this tax was aimed at, is what's caused these issues. And the government should have come up with a significantly better policy than they have, which is why we're getting these sort of knee-jerk reactions. But if we want to do it, we can do something strategic and hopefully help, or we can respond with a generic whitewash letter that will not get any real push forward, other than saying, we've done something too, aren't we great?
I do rather think that that's where a lot of the concerns come from, that we don't feel we have the right information, and that's why we need to collect more information. So thank you for that contribution, Councillor Hawkins. That was very welcome. Councillor McKinder, you were next.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward's pretty much said what I wanted about the changes to the wording there. The other concern I have is with this amendment, presumably that letter is only sent after scrutiny, if it goes to scrutiny, have considered it and made something of it, because otherwise it seems like we're going to send the letter anyway. You guys can scrutinise it if you like, which would make it a rather pointless waste of scrutiny's time.
So the way I've received the various amendments and the information that we've had this evening is that people want 2 things. They want us to have proper information about the effect on our farmers and our local family farms, which is what we're going to be collecting through the scrutiny process if that passes. But also what they want to do is to maybe something of a holding letter to say, we're not happy about this, please have another look at it in the immediate term. And that's what I'm getting from the room, and that's what I felt that we were aiming towards, to have a 2-part process where we really take the plight of beleaguered farmers seriously, whilst also working on the tax dodges, the various tax dodges that do happen. We have to be cogent of that and aware of that. So I'm perceiving it as being a 2-part thing. And I think that's where most people seem to be heading as well, that we want to keep doing this. We don't just want to make a gesture and then forget about it, but we actually want to do something where we find out what's happening in our area. Right.
Ollie was next.
Oh, Ollie. Have you had your, sorry, Ollie Davey, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Yeah, well, what you just said, I could support. What I can't support is simply rejecting the proposed changes. And when I advise constituents about changes that are happening around them, I always try and say to them, rather than just saying, I'm against this, suggest how it could be made better. So I could support a motion that asks the government to do actually what our scrutiny committee is going to do, look more closely at the impact of this. Because as Councillor Loudon says, there's a lot of assertion and counter-assertion going around about how many farms this is going to affect. And we just heard a figure, I've got one, 40% of farm sales last year were bought by investors. 45% were bought by working farmers. So we need more information. And we're simply getting assertions and demonstrations, and we all know as councillors that as soon as you propose something, there's a load of people that say, well, this is the thin end of the wedge, and we know what's going to happen, and then it happens, and none of the disaster scenarios actually takes place. So I could support this if we take out the word rejecting and substitute something like urging the government to review the proposed changes, but I can't support it if we're simply saying we're against this. And I don't like the way it's being suggested that you're either with the farmers or you're against them. I am totally against this kind of dichotomy that is peddled so often in political debate, and it's not helpful and it doesn't result in good outcomes.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is that there is considerable disquiet about the effects of this policy on our family farms. So that much I think we can take for granted. We all have concerns about what happens with our family farms locally, but there is also quite a lot of alarm about the effect of investment vehicles being used within farming. Right, we've got 2 more speakers, and I really, really would quite like to move on to some voting. That would be quite nice. Councillor Barlow, you're first.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, I was just going to say, if this can be done in a day of officers' time, as has been suggested, why don't we call an extraordinary meeting of scrutiny, get it over and out and done with. We could do it next week, and it'll all be done and finished. And then we can send one letter, because it's a simple thing, it's only going to take a day of time. And then at least we will have a proper debate on it, and we can, as you say, move something on that will be a proper letter that will be looked into.
Right. I note that we've gone back to a form of words that says the CEO sends a letter. We've lost the group leaders. So what I was about to say is that if the group leaders, they are still there, are they? Okay. So the text of the letter will be agreed with all the group leaders. And so hopefully between you, we'll find a form of words that's acceptable to everybody outside this chamber. Right, I've got one more speaker. Councillor Dumper, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to say, I wondered whether we could somewhere, because I think external information is so vital to this process. I know scrutiny can, but not in a one-day session, can invite others in and experts. But I think it would be much more productive to associate ourselves with the undoubted Local Government Association action, which I'm sure will come about. So I'd like somewhere in the amendment for that to be included.
Maybe something along the lines of referring to the LGA process or work on the matter. I mean, it just seems, we are in an information dearth at the moment. We have not enough information on which to be able to formulate a response.
Consult with the LGA.
Yes, you can consult with the LGA, Councillor Goodman. Councillor Raggs just pointed out.
What I was going to say is that Andrew, I'm sure, will do, if we agreed to do this, Andrew will be the one that shapes it for us, and then we would have the group to do it. But I think we would be wrong not to consult widely with this. And I just love the idea that's come out that we will actually find out how it affects our farmers.
Okay,
and I think that's really key. When this was first brought, I was thinking, well, it's across the country, but actually it resonates so much better when we're talking about our farmers in East Devon.
Well, that's all we can talk
Yeah.
about because that's who
So
we
I fully
represent.
support, I think we can do it.
Mel, you would like to come in, please?
Yeah, I think we just need to be careful because obviously we've got one amendment on the table. We've already had another suggestion about adding the words urging the government to review the proposed, and now Councillor Dumper is suggesting something else. Obviously, if the proposer is happy to accept those changes, that's fine, but if not, then obviously we have to go with the amendment as it stands.
So I think that the letter that comes from the group leaders is going to reflect a mutually agreed position. And I think it's probably being a hostage to fortune to try and back ourselves into an ideological corner this evening. So I think possibly if we could rephrase that in a way that's acceptable to the largest possible number of people right now, that would be really helpful, because it would allow the work of actually writing the letter to be done outside this chamber by the group leaders. So, I'm asking you whether you're willing to accept as an amendment to mute that part of the paragraph. No, it's going to declutter it, I think.
Explain why, to me, reject it is good. We're not saying reject everything. Reject the proposed.
Oh, microphone, sorry, yes.
Reject the proposed changes. In other words, you go back and start again because you put your foot in the water and jumped in straight away and got it wrong. That's what nearly all of us believe, because there's so many, as Councillor Loudon said, so many different opinions on how many people it's going to affect. Therefore, it's wrong.
Okay, how about...
It's quickly considered. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But I thought just rejecting it was enough. If you want to put at the end, I would go at the end and put formally rejecting the proposed relief and reconsider.
I was about to say, would you be willing to replace formally rejecting, which seems to be a bit of a bone of contention this evening, with reconsider?
Yes. Yeah, I
okay,
think so.
fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's fine.
Thank you. Because I think that will be easier. Yeah. That will be easier to vote on, I think.
Yeah,
and then,
okay, if that brings more of us together.
Yeah, and then the work of actually putting the letter together will be done outside this chamber by
I would have
group
thought,
leaders.
Chair, is that obviously the leader of the council and the group leaders, but you've also got the chair of scrutiny and who's involved in the first half of this. So I think we need to try and tie the two together.
I think it will be a joint effort. I think it will be a joint effort.
Yeah.
In the end.
Tell me
is
when
good.
I can speak.
To your amendment. I think by the time we finish hashing your amendment about, then you can have a... I think we're nearly there. We're nearly there. So... Oh, where are we? Oh, Councillor Westerman, please.
Can I just say that if you're urging all councillors and one person disagrees, does that mean it falls flat? I think all should be taken out.
It is all group leaders, isn't it?
Well, it says the
Okay.
first line.
That's possibly another hostage to fortune, Councillor Ingham. Do we want to just remove all? Urges councillors. If we could just remove the word all in the first line, please, Andrew. Thank you. Right. Now, are we nearly ready to vote on this? Right, we're going to vote on this amendment, and I'm going to read... Who wishes to speak? Alistair. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. I am assuming at some point that the original proposers and seconders are going to get a chance to have a conversation about this, because it's morphed so far away from where we first started. And when I was asked to second this, basically and I take all the comments and they're very valid. The way I saw it was that it was going to be a letter with some information attached to it, which would go forward to government. Now I take on all the nuances and all changes, which are quite correct. And on the basis of that, yes, if we get information through scrutiny that can inform that letter that goes off, all the better. Because if it goes off just flat, you're quite right, it'll just be chucked in the bin.
I suspect, Councillor Bruce, that what will happen is we will send a letter and then the scrutiny process will happen, and the scrutiny will probably make recommendations to send further letters based on the information and containing information that they uncover. I think that's possibly what will happen. So this initial letter is coming from a place of urgency with insufficient information, which we're acknowledging in this chamber tonight, because everybody, hardly any of us know enough about farming to be able to make an informed decision about this. But hopefully, after it's gone through the scrutiny committee, there will be more information available with which to send further well-informed letters to the Chancellor, updating. So I don't think this letter will prevent future letters from being sent, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
So, Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. The first one is just to make sure that the wider membership are aware here that this amendment is an addition to the other wording, because listening to a couple of my colleagues here, I think they thought this was a replacement for that first bit of wording, but this is an addition to. The other point is, I support an informed letter. One thing that I would say, though, is having listened to colleagues, I wonder whether the addition of "and business property relief" is a mistake, because listening to the original motion, it seems to be focused around agricultural property relief and the impact on farmers specifically. And as Councillor Hawkins picked up, I wonder if that is too broad, and actually a deletion of that is sensible at this point, leaving just agricultural property relief.
I potentially am about to put Councillor Hawkins on the spot here, but I suspect he's probably the person in the chamber who has the most knowledge of this sort of thing. So I'm going to ask him if he thinks that would be a worthwhile amendment at this point to remove the business property relief, because I don't know enough about farming to know whether it is relevant.
I would suggest there's been absolutely no debate around people holding unquoted shares and everything else that comes into BPR. So unless members are particularly happy and they want to widen it out to the full BPR, they might want to rethink. Obviously, I don't want to do an IHT lesson, but there are parts of farms that come under BPR rather than APR, and that's why they kind of go hand in hand. But you can, as an example, if you own a laundrette business and you want to pass that on to your children, that comes under BPR. So at the moment, this would say include, if you've got it would need to be over £1 million, I think 1.6 million to even come into this, which is why we're only talking about millionaires here. Laundrette business, and you pass that to your children, this would be one we would be trying to defend with this, and I don't know if that's fully what members are intended, given the nature of the talk tonight's been about farmers.
Thank you very much for that, Sam. So next up we have Jeff Young, and then Councillor Burrup, and then Councillor Heath, please.
Yeah, from the information I've read, any farm that's diversified, it would need to include agricultural property relief and the business property relief. So now, just think, most farms have diversified from farming. So that is why that's in there. That's what some papers that I've read has suggested.
Thank you, Councillor Young. I think farm diversification is something we do have to take into account as well. I think the motion itself is fairly clearly about farming. So maybe we add in farming-related business property relief to the front, where it says business property relief. Put farming-related. You don't like complication.
We know, all we're saying is to reject what they've done literally at the moment. And to invite them to look at both is absolutely fine, because what they've done currently, or proposing to do, is wrong. And that's, the wording's fine.
Right, okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Ingham. You just spoke, didn't you? Councillor Burrup first, and then Councillor Heath.
I agree that actually what we're saying here is to reconsider the proposed changes, and actually it's a catch-all, So actually, I think they will reconsider it in terms of agricultural effect. So I think that the text is fine.
Thank you, Councillor Burrup. Councillor Heath, please, and then Councillor Loudon, and then I'm going to move to a vote. Oh no, Councillor Loudon's withdrawn. Excellent. Councillor Heath.
Thank you very much. I would suggest taking out reconsider and putting in a review and reflect, or reflect and review. And the reason I say that is because you have a dichotomy, as Ollie Davey, Councillor Davey, alluded to earlier, and that is the discrepancy between family farms being charged this tax as opposed to corporations. I have no problem with corporations being charged tax, but I do have a problem with family farms being charged tax, and that is something the government has failed to really address in this blanket policy. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. I do think that reconsider has enough connotations, though, personally, so I'm happy to stay with reconsider. In the interest of expediency, I think we should probably move on to a vote on this amendment now. Right, so, ladies and gentlemen, if we ever want to get to our mince pies, Councillor Ingham, do you want to come back and you do the talk about your amendment? Oh. Okay, sorry. Would you like to come in, please, Councillor Ingham?
I'll be quick, I'll be brutal, frank, maybe a bit rude, I try not to be.
Don't be rude.
I see this in two steps. Unfortunately, we've had a very long debate, which I was not in favour of. Try to avoid that. But the first section, I've heard what Councillor Goodman has said, and the intent there, I think, is for scrutiny to invite local farms to educate us.
The amendment.
Yes, but the two will go together. This isn't the amendment.
Only if it's passed. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So the point being that will come in January. If we're lucky, it will be tied up by Easter. I suspect it will be the summer. But that's actually fine for us to do that and to educate ourselves about
your amendment. Your amendment.
Yes. Now, the second part.
Which is your amendment? Yes.
Yes, the second part we need to do quickly. And the whole point was that I felt we were going to do that an hour ago. That is the bit that we will be judged by. Because if we don't do that, people will say, do you know what they didn't do? They didn't even write a letter. And that's why we've got to make it quite clear that this has to be reconsidered. It won't be taken away and thrown in the bin and never be seen again. We're saying they've got to think properly and plan properly before they introduce this, And Councillor Loudon made it quite clear that different bodies have different assessments on how many different people will be affected.
It is complicated.
Clearly, it's wrong. The current proposal from the government is wrong. That's why we've got to write this letter and tell them now.
And
While we go on to the main
point
part.
taken. So what I would really like to do is to move on to a vote on the amendment now. And
I
as I said earlier, I do think we've got a wealth of expertise that other districts don't necessarily have because they're not so rural and don't have the farmland that we have. Right, so we are going to go to a vote on the amendment submitted by Councillor Ingham, which is the bit in yellow on the screen. Now, I am going to attempt to read it for the sake of Councillor Gazzard. Councillor Gazzard, do you understand what the text is?
No, Chair, I can't read it.
This is the problem. So this is why I wanted to read it. Okay. Yes, Andrew, would you please read it out for us? Thank you.
To read that for you, Chair. So the amendment reads, this council urges councillors to stand with Britain's family farmers to support our rural communities, and that the Chief Executive sends a letter to the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Minister of State for Food Security and Rural Affairs, signed by all group leaders, requesting them to reconsider the proposed changes to the agricultural property relief and farming agricultural related business property relief.
That is the text of the amendment that we're about to vote on. So if accepted, that amendment will then be appended to the motion text, which is what is above it on the screen, which we'll also be voting on in a moment. Right, so if you are in favour of adding this bit of text to the text of the motion that we have in front of us, would you please raise your hand now? If you are against adding that, would you please raise your hand now? And if you wish to abstain, would you please raise your hand now? We have a couple of abstentions, but it's largely carried. Thank you very much. So that amendment then ceases to be appended and becomes part of the text of the motion. Now, We haven't actually had a debate on the full motion. Can I suggest that I move it from the chair and then we go straight to a vote on this? Right. Oh, would you like a right to reply? Are you going to be super fast and quick? Yes. Okay. So Councillor Loudon is now going to use his right to reply, please.
And I will be brief.
Excellent.
As Councillor Ingham and Councillor Arnott always say. Just so that it's clear to colleagues, if you look down to the 5th and 6th lines in this, the key bit, and I'll read it, is what I'm saying there, is to give maximum consideration of what positive, broad support this council might provide to the district's farmers. So it goes beyond what the original intent was, and it's trying to take in the broadest, and it's to use this council's role and influence in the district and beyond, and giving support to the farming community that we have within our midst. And just, it's an opportunity, because I have heard, and I'll name check Councillor Collins here, heard him say many times, we don't do enough for the farmers. So this is an opportunity for us to take, and on five grounds, and they're single words: poverty, food security, farm diversity, tourism, and economy. Those are aspects that the farming community and maybe other things have a play in this district. It's our opportunity. So please vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon, for reminding us where it fits into our own scheme of work and how we do things. Right, so Marianne, is it going to be super fast? Please.
Absolutely. Please change knowledgeable to knowledge, because it should say we'll have sufficient detailed knowledge about.
Okay, so that's a typo, so so Councillor Loudon accepts that. So where it says knowledgeable, please, Andrew, it should be changed to knowledge. Okay, fantastic, thank you. Right, so I don't see any great appetite for debating this any further, do you? Okay, right, let's move straight to a vote on it then. If you are in favour of this motion as it is presented on the screen with its amendment, would you please raise your hand now? Thank you, Councillor Ledger. If you're against it, please raise your hand now. And if you want to abstain, please raise your hand now. That is unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Good grief. We've been going for, nearly 2 hours. It was a very necessary debate. Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Right. I think in view of the fact we've been going for nearly 2 hours, I think we should probably have 5 minutes now for a quick rest break. Could you be back here, please, for 8 o'clock? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call us back to order to carry on with this meeting before we hit the mulled wine and mince pies, hopefully. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to begin again, please. Would you please take your seats? I mean, I could bring the gavel close to the microphone and use that, but I don't want to deafen anybody.
Simon, is there a heat control on?
Yeah, we are starting to boil. So I think Tim...
What's that on the wall then, Simon?
So there's an app. Tim Charles has an app on his phone. A few of the officers have got on their phone for controlling the temperature, including Tim.
He's not here though.
No, but you can message him. You can message him and ask him to turn it down. It's an app. I can't remember who else has it. There's a few of the DSOs as well. Oh, Andrew might. Doing everything. Right, are we ready to start again, please? Because our mince pies will still be waiting for us. Well, those of them that are left, anyway. Right, I'm calling this meeting back to order, please, to tackle item 14, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Which is the motion on notice about housing proposed by Councillor Riddell and seconded by Councillor Ledger. Now, I'm going to call Councillor Riddell to speak on his motion. You have up to 5 minutes or however much time you'd like to take up to that time. Would you please introduce your motion, Henry?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to present a revised motion on housing which will help East Devon resolve problems in a timely manner, a motion which I first brought forward at the October Full Council. After discussing it with Councillor Ledger before the meeting, I agreed to withdraw the motion so that we could refine it, ensuring it accurately reflects the current situation and ongoing hard work of his team. The reason I initially proposed this motion is personal. I have witnessed firsthand the impact of damp and mould on family and friends. I know how damaging it can be to both health and quality of life. Since the October Full Council meeting, we've seen positive progress. The stock condition survey was completed and presented on November the 7th, and the full investment and delivery plan is moving forward, with final appraisals due by April 2025. These developments, along with ongoing work to address damp and mould, are encouraging, but we cannot be complacent. While the survey's findings were not as severe as initially expected, damp and mould remain a significant concern, not just in council housing, but across the private rented sector as well. In fact, according to national reports, approximately 25% of social housing tenants in the UK have reported issues with damp and mould in their homes. This is a widespread issue that has serious health implications, and it's crucial that we take a comprehensive approach to tackle these problems, ensuring that all residents, whether in council properties or the private sector, receive the help they need. I would like to thank Councillor Ledger and his team for their efforts so far, but I would also like to stress that this is not about party politics. This motion is about working together to address a crucial issue that affects the health and well-being of our community. It's about taking responsibility, being proactive, and ensuring the voices of all residents are heard. This motion calls for urgent action to resolve outstanding damp and mould issues, with work to be completed by the end of the financial year. It also includes a communication plan to ensure that all residents are informed on how to identify and address these issues, as well as the development of policies in line with new legislation. This motion is not just about fixing homes, but about improving lives. By working together, we can ensure that our residents live in homes that are safe, healthy, and fit for the future. I would urge you all to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riddell. Councillor Ledger, as the seconder, would you like to speak now?
Very briefly, Chair, just echoing a lot of the words of Councillor Riddell there, just highlighting that this is a cross-party motion. Extremely grateful that Councillor Riddell worked with me to form the wording for this. And I just hope that all members can get behind it. It's a key piece of work that it just puts the residents and tenants first. And that's what we should all be doing as councillors. So I'm hopeful it'll be a very short debate and a very quick vote to pass this through.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ledger. And I would say that I think as a council we are doing a lot more than used to happen because of concerns currently. I mean, because since AWAB's law became a thing, then we have had to focus more on it, and that is a good thing. So I think that a lot of things are actually happening within our council already, and I think it would be useful if we could publicise those more widely so that people are more aware of what's possible if they are living in an untenable situation in their house, whether they're private tenants or tenants of a housing association, which didn't necessarily be ours. So there are other housing associations as well. So if you are in a situation where you are living in a very damp and mouldy house, we might be able to help. So please do ask for our help if you are living in that situation. Right, now, do we have any, any of the supporters wish to speak to this motion? Or should we, Councillor Goodman, please.
Just briefly, I would like to commend both Councillor Ledger and Councillor Riddell for this motion. I think it's great that we know the problems we got in housing, but this is about working together to help our residents. And I think this is what this is done. It had been quite easy last time to have had a different motion, and it may not have ended up so collaboratively as we've got now. Because what really matters is our residents, and I think this working together is what this council should be about. And I commend this and will vote for it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goodman. Right, does anybody else want to speak to this motion? Councillor Bethany Collins, please.
Thank you, Chair. I support this motion, and I also just wanted to say a huge sort of thank you to the housing team working behind the scenes sort of tirelessly on this issue and on the other issues that we know are facing sort of our tenants and our housing stock. They're doing an incredible and immense amount of work, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone in the room when I say thank you to them and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Collins. Councillor Steve Gazzard, please.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, can I say I'm really pleased to see a motion like this on the agenda. It's vitally important that we sort out the issues with damp, and then I will be supporting the motion. But just as a matter of interest, I mean, I had a resident in my ward that contacted me about damp in their house. I contacted the correct department, and within days somebody went to have a look, and it was sorted out within weeks. So, you know, we do have a good team that will do it if they're notified it. But excellent motion, and thank you to the pair of you.
Thank you very much for that good report, Councillor Gazzard, and I'm sure Catherine Stark, who's sitting in the room, is happy to hear that you know, the processes are working. Right. Councillor Faithfull, please.
Thank you, Chair. With this, will we be able to deal with damp caused by people's living or lifestyle, how they live within their space, causing their own damp problems?
So that is a question I'm probably going to put to Catherine Stark, because I suspect that there is people speaking to tenants about potential lifestyle issues that may affect damp and mould. So I'm going to pass that one over to Catherine, please.
Yeah, advice is already given to individuals to try and manage condensation, which is obviously where damp and mould starts. So advice is already given on a kind of case-by-case basis, but also communications plan is fully in place for rolling out wider comms on that, using different media so that it can kind of span across different languages, different kind of approaches to things, so that there are no barriers, so that everybody gets an opportunity to understand how they can reduce the impact or reduce the possibility and probability of damp and mould.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Councillor Arnott and then Councillor Barlow, please. Oh, then and Councillor Toy.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to the proposer and seconder. And I think this collegiate, collaborative way of doing this is very welcome. And I think I should note that the council or councillors have been aware of these problems for many, many years, or you could say decades. But the most significant sea change here has been not only from the membership, but it has been in particular the appointment of Tracy initially in the housing role, which is still only about a year and a quarter ago, I think, something like that. And then the subsequent appointment of Catherine in the role of Director of Housing, and the review of the entire way those services work that then followed. And that is what has set the context for us to allow us to pass a motion like this tonight and feel confident that its intentions will be achieved. And that's really important. And I think that process of those new appointments is something as councillors we can all be proud of, because we voted those changes through. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I thought I heard Councillor Riddell said he was withdrawing the motion. Is that correct?
No, it was the motion, the original motion in October was
Right,
withdrawn.
okay.
But
No,
this one is very much here and alive.
I was just slightly confused, so I do support it.
Was that it?
That was all it was.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councillor Toy, please.
The problem, rather than blaming some people for their behaviour, I think the problem is poverty. If you can't afford to put the heating on, then the damp will set in, and then the mould will follow. And then if it's still not addressed, then more structural damage. So it goes wider than this council. It goes to social security and better pay, and all sorts of other things to address poverty.
Point taken, Andrew, and Councillor Toy, sorry. And also we have got a poverty strategy and work happening within poverty coming out of Revs and Bens as well, revenues and benefits, sorry, and various other departments. So we are trying to tackle it holistically, but we cannot duck structural issues as well, which are often the cause in older housing stock of damp and mould issues. Right, does anybody else wish to say anything about this motion, or shall we go to a vote? I think we're going to go to a vote. Right. If you're in favour of accepting this motion as it is, unamended, would you please raise your hand now? If you are against it, would you please raise your hand now? And if you wish to abstain, would you please raise your hand now? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Right. Next up, we have item 15, which is appointment of tenant representatives to serve on the Housing Review Board. Now, I cannot remember who is putting, is this you, Councillor Chamberlain? No. Sarah, is this you? Right. Would you like to speak on this? Or Catherine, are you able to pick this up, maybe? No? Okay. Well, broadly, I think the composition of the Housing Review Board is changing, as I understand, and is going to involve more tenants. And so some tenants have been located and have been through a full process, which Catherine or Sarah, do you wish to speak about? No? Okay. Oh, okay, Catherine, please.
Yep, so we've had, contacted and kind of put out a plea to anybody who'd be interested in joining HRB as a tenant. And then through a recruitment process, as in through an interview process, we are now in the position where two people have been nominated, and we're very pleased, and hopefully it'll get agreed now and they will be able to formally join us. They attended our first HRB to sit in and listen and learn. And they already contributed brilliantly in terms of just in that capacity, and it's just a it's a genuine blessing to kind of have that lived experience and that kind of opportunity to engage and listen and learn and be heard at that level. And then obviously the idea being that those views will then be heard at this level and at Cabinet, and it's just really vital to the work that we're doing.
Thank you very much, Catherine. So I don't think we need to debate this with too much. So the recommendation we have in front of us is that the Council appoints Rachel Brown and Rosie Dale to serve as co-opted tenant representatives on the Housing Review Board. I'm going to move straight to a vote on that because we've heard that there's been a process and that that they're going to be excellent and wonderful members of the Housing Review Board. So can you, if you are in favour of accepting these two tenant representatives, would you raise your hand now, please? Thank you. And if you are against, please raise your hand now. And if you wish to abstain, please raise your hand now. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. Next up, we have. We are inviting nominations for a vacancy on the Poverty Working Group. So, Councillor Loudon, do you have any nominations or?
Well, what I was going to say, Chair, was that there are 10 seats on this group, and the majority group here have got a number of seats on there, and we believe that it's an opportune moment to pass out to our colleagues in the other groups and say, you know, please come along. Otherwise, the DA group is going to be just smothering it, I'm afraid.
So, if anybody who is not on the on the ruling group wishes to step forwards to be on the Poverty Working Group, we'd be very grateful because it needs a balance of views and opinions. Councillor Brown, are you putting yourself forwards? Okay, Councillor Brown has nominated himself. Does he? I thought you were about to nominate Jenny as well. Right. Do we need? Are there any other candidates wishing to self-nominate? I'm peering intently at this side of the chamber at this point.
Yes.
Oh, who is that? Oh, sorry, Councillor McCollum. Sorry. Okay. So there's one vacancy and two candidates. Okay, so there's one vacancy and one candidate. So we don't need a vote on this. Do we need a vote on it? Okay, so we need a vote on it. I'm reliably informed by our lawyer. So if you are happy for Councillor Brown to join the Poverty Working Group, would you please raise your hand now? And if you're not happy with him joining, would you please raise your hand now? And if you, you voted twice, Councillor Loudon, don't think I didn't spot it. And if you would like to abstain, would you please raise your hand now? And I believe that is unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to Poverty Working Group, Councillor Brown. Right, now, moving on. Would you want to do this bit?
No, you do it.
Okay, all right. So at this point, we're going to bid farewell to people watching us on our feed because we're going to move into part B. Where are we? So now I'm going to pass a resolution that the press and public are excluded from the meeting under Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 on the basis that if they were present during the business to be transacted, there would be a likelihood of disclosure of exempt information within the meaning of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972 as the information in respect of which a claim to legal professional privilege could be maintained in legal proceedings. Do I have a proposer for that motion? Oh, Councillor Gazard will propose. Will anybody second? Councillor Heath will second. If you're in favour of this motion, would you please raise your hand now? If you're against it, please raise your hand now. If you wish to abstain, okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. So we're now going to move into part B. And we are going to stop the feed to YouTube and move into part B. And hopefully at the end of this, we will be